Oh, yeah, we are on plot point 12. We are officially here. This is the old juxtaposition. Have you been following along with these plot point breakdowns, or if this is your first time, welcome. Hello, how's it going? You know that we are officially deep into the narrative trenches of the 27 plot point outline, also known as the 27 chapter outline. Just altered it slightly. PP11 was an opportunity for us to play around in the fun and games and learn a little bit about the protagonist. But right after that breather, boom, we are in PP12. And this is going to hit like a quiet but powerful gut punch to see the difference between where they came from in the ordinary world and where they are currently in the narrative of Act 2. Or at least we are going to learn a little bit about how they are seeing the world emotionally, spiritually, mentally, or physically. So it's basically time for the protagonist to compare their current world to how things were at the beginning, or simply juxtaposition. This moment is this is a narrative beat where your readers and your characters, all right, get to feel the shift that's happened since page 1. More specifically, Act 1, Section 1, Plot Point 1, the ordinary world. Think of it as if the narrative's holding up a before and after photo of your protagonist's life. What's the purpose of it? Well, I'll tell you. To show contrast. Why? It makes everything feel earned deeper and have an emotional weight to it when we can see how far they've come in the narrative since basically the beginning. But it also gives context to the idea of how they are emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically experiencing Act 2. So in this video, we are going to break down what juxtaposition really means, why it's important, I should say, and how to pull it off without it being an exposition dump or coming off as a did you know. So, as they say, whether you're writing your first draft or polishing your 10th novel, this beat is a fantastic moment to remind readers of the journey. So, we will be talking about show how far your characters have come. With that said, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. What does juxtaposition mean? Well, juxtaposition is basically putting two things side by side to show their differences. Very simple. In everyday life, it's why a tiny puppy next to a massive Great Dane makes both look even cuter. In narratives, it's the same idea, but comes with a more specific intent. The classic example everyone knows is the opening of A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Dickens slams opposites together to show how chaotic and contradictory the era felt. This helps with an instant mood setting tool and sets the tone. However, for narrative, you want plot point 12 to zoom in specifically on different kinds of juxtaposition. Basically, it takes your protagonist's ordinary world, where they came from, looking at it, looking at their starting point, and then comparing it to their current world in Act 2. Specifically, how it has transformed the world itself or the character. But I will say this, that old juxtaposition isn't going to elevate a narrative if you fall into a table of characters sitting down and monologuing, gee, remember when I was just a regular accountant? Now I'm fighting aliens. Crazy, right? I'll say that you could do that, but it doesn't come with the same impact. Instead, show the difference however you can. The goal is that you always want actions, settings, emotions, or even little details to do the heavy lifting of juxtaposition. And sometimes the tiniest bit of telling is okay for quick context, like back then he couldn't even ask her out. But the real power comes when you show it. You want the readers to feel the growth themselves. Why does that matter, though? Because narratives are about change. And I know that you know that your protagonist started somewhere safe, or at least familiar safe. That started all of this. The narrative, everything that's going on. And then somehow, out of nowhere, they got yanked into a whole new world, shining, shimmering, splendid. The truth is, your protagonist is no longer the same person, unless it's a flat arc. Then, of course, they may be the same, but their world isn't the same, nor are their circumstances. This plot point should remind readers, including the character, how far they came. So, overall, it's designed to build empathy, raise the stakes, and set up the back half of Section 4. Let's get into how does one show sometimes tell. I love it. See, I'm fancy. All right. When in doubt, show sometimes tell. The contrast. All right. So when in doubt, show sometimes tell the contrast through what's happening right now in the narrative. Make the old world, quote unquote, echo beside the new one of Act 2, or flip expectations. Okay, but how? How does one do that, Thomas? I love that you're asking these questions. Your protagonist started out as a miserable mechanic working a crap job for someone else. Their dream is to work on race cars at the big NASCAR tracks at their job. They hate their boss. They're doing oil changes and are almost 40. The shift happens in Act 2, PP12, Juxtaposition, where they are now being shown working on a race car at a big NASCAR track. So basically, instead of saying, man, I've changed, now I'm working on race cars. This is my dream. The narrative is actually showing them physically doing the thing that they wish they could do. And I would add that they would be emotionally happy, but maybe over their head and still loving it, working hard to be there to earn their spot. Examples to study. If you pay attention to some of your favorite movies and books, you'll easily see that this plot point is very present to those narratives too. Take this super unknown film, The Matrix. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Neo starts as a bored hacker, hating his job in a gray cubicle. By this plot point, he's in the Matrix and, by the way, knows Kung Fu. Spider-Man, I don't know if you've heard about Spider-Man, okay? The one with Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, starts off as an awkward kid who's bullied. Well, if you're wondering, Peter is Spider-Man. And believe it or not, the juxtaposition is that he's no longer the bullied kid and stands up for himself, tries to get the girl, etc., 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 etc. All right. But more importantly, let's see what happens. Romances has a shy librarian heroine. All right. She likes to hide behind her bookshelves, etc., etc. in Act 1. Right. But a brooding billionaire says, hey, I like your glasses. And now she's no longer in a library. She's in a world where, let's be honest, is a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit more aggressive, you know, a little bit more aggressive. And then you get 50 Shades of Grey. All right, not that she was a librarian. I'm making a huge leap as a joke, but the idea is they start in some place where they're meek, shy, and quiet, and then they're 50 Shades of Grey. These work because they're subtle moments that show big change, and they don't have to be big moments or small moments. They just need to serve the narrative best they can. A really good example of this is Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Elizabeth, as you know, is the daughter of the governor, and has a great life, has servants, all these other things. In this plot point 12, Juxtaposition, she is on the pirate ship of Barbosa, and he's telling the story about their goals. And you best be believing in ghost stories because you're in one. And she realizes, whoa, what's going on? Everybody looks dead. So this is an example of showing the juxtaposition. She is no longer safe or in her home. All right, before we get to the right mindset perspective, just remember, before we get into the craziness of it, if you don't know, I have books, but go to makearightleft.com. You can check out my books. Well, they're everywhere. I got a plot point book, bam, boom, zhang. So what we're talking about right now, You basically, this book goes over the plot points in greater detail, but not only that, but it teaches you about narrative structure, what narratives are, and gives you a lot of insight into, even if you're a pantser, how to understand narrative in general. Also, remember that the Death of a King series is exclusively available on my Patreon through the Scribe tier. It is an educational tier, so not only do you get the quality of the reading the book itself in the third draft version of it, but also you learn the evolution. And then if you didn't know, bang, bang, ba-doom, bam, boom. Let's get into it. Plot point 12 isn't always flashy exposition or revelations, though it can be. It can just as well be a quiet, reflective beat, though. The whole point is a beat designed to give the reader and characters a reminder of where they have come from and where they currently are. Ultimately, the transformation. Quack, 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 quack. Roll out. My advice is that I have ticks. All right. My advice to you is to go back to plot point 11 and take notes on the world the protagonist lives in. So if you should be writing, because that's why you're watching these channels. So if you're the author itself, just go back to the first the chapters that represented plot point 1. Okay, the ordinary world. You could even go to section 1 technically, and what are the elements that you explored and discovered in section 1. But really the stronger juxtaposition is taking plot point 1, the ordinary world, because it's before the inciting incident. Things aren't really being roughed up. So what is their world in the ordinary world of plot point 1, section 1, act 1? Okay, take some notes down, and then in this plot point you could start sort of thinking about what would represent growth, change, or basically the opposite of where they started. So if they started off poor, maybe they're now wealthy. If they started off wealthy, maybe they're now poor. If they started off really strong, maybe they're in a position where they're really weak. If they started off with power and authority, maybe they lost that power and authority. You can do that. You can be very directly opposite. You don't have to, though. You can play with things, play with elements. Maybe they are powerful and have authority, but now they're seeing what their power and authority has done to the people around them. So not necessarily that they're losing their power and authority, but now they are emotionally influenced by the change of the world around them. Okay, so there's so much you can do with this, but ultimately look at your first plot point, write down what's happening in those chapters or chapter, and then ultimately say to yourself, how do I play with this? How do I either go the opposite route? How do I show the influence or effect of their power or weakness? Remember, if somebody is not strong and can't use their sword or magic, and the juxtaposition is that they're seeing their village destroyed or beaten or people hurt, and it's because they didn't have the power to help. That's juxtaposition. All right. Basically, how can you show the difference in plot point 12 against what you wrote down in your notes? This is the before and after process of saying they were A, but what would B look like because of XYZ? But more importantly, how does it deepen the narrative, characters, and situations through their emotions, physical, mental, and spiritual? Could be any of those or all of them. At the end of the day, remember, it's all made up. Writing has a process, yes, of course, but is that process right for you? Find things that make sense to you, try things, and if you like certain things in narratives or don't like them, you know you are the god of your creation. So have at it and enjoy the creative process, because writing is just, it's a creative medium we get to play with. Next video in the series, plot point 13, we are going to be talking about the build up to the midpoint conflict, which will be section 5. We are officially in the middle of your narrative. All right. Oh, by the way, did you like what you saw today? Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. Also, more importantly, thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm. YouTube likes it. And remember, every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do live videos. Saturdays are educational craft, real-time examples, and Sunday, write a book with me from concept to completion. Yes, I love it. Other than that, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.